Matt Sharrers is a seasoned CEO, advisor, and thought leader, specializing in leadership transitions and scaling businesses. As the former CEO of SBI, he led the firm to consecutive recognitions as one of America's most admired management consulting firms by Forbes. After successfully grooming his successor, Matt shifted his focus to empowering CEOs and advising private equity firms, helping leaders navigate the complexities of growth and transformation. Drawing from the first-hand experience as a second CEO following a founder, Matt offers unparalleled insight into the unique challenges and opportunities of this critical transition. His latest book, The Second CEO Accelerating Scale When Following the Founder, provides a blueprint for successor CEOs looking to drive rapid, sustainable growth while honoring a founder's legacy. With a career spanning 3 decades, including roles as an elite athlete, Fortune 500 executive, and CEO of a PE backed company, Matt combines real world leadership experiences with a deep passion for driving impact. Today, his mission is to help leaders unlock extraordinary results through strategic guidance, coaching, and board advisory work. Driven by a commitment to transformation over transactions, Matt continues to shape the future of executive leadership and business scalability. And before we start this episode, a quick word from our sponsor, Deep Wealth, and the 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery Program. Here's Jane, a graduate who says, and I quote, "The Deep Wealth Mastery Program prevented me from making what would have been one of the biggest mistakes of my career. I almost signed on the dotted line with an unsolicited offer that I now realize would have shortchanged my hard work and my future had I accepted that offer. Deep Wealth Mastery has tilted the playing field to my advantage." Or how about Lynn? Wow, he gets right to the point, and I quote, "Deep Wealth Mastery is one of the best investments ever made because you'll get an ROI of 100 times that. Anyone who doesn't go through this will lose millions." And as you're listening to these testimonials, are you wondering if you have the time? Are you even thinking that you've got this covered? You have the advisors or people in your network? Well, I got to tell you, these myths, they're often behind the 90% failure rate for liquidity events. Think about it. You have one chance to get it right for your financial freedom. You really want to make it count. And when it comes to time, let's hear what William has to say. We just got in this testimonial. William says, and I quote, "I didn't have the time for Deep Wealth Mastery, but I made the time and I'm glad I did. What I learned goes far beyond any other executive program or coach I've experienced." So what do you think? As I hear that, that's exactly what gets me out of bed every day. That's my mission. That's the team's mission here at Deep Wealth, to literally change the social fabric of society, one business owner at a time, one liquidity event at a time. And my Deep Wealth Nation, what I want you to know, the Deep Wealth Mastery Program, it isn't theory. It's from the trenches. It's the only one based on a 9-figure deal. And that deal, that was my deal. You know my story. I said no to a 7-figure offer. I created a system that later on, myself and my business partners, we said yes to a different buyer, a different offer, a 9-figure deal. That's what we now call the Deep Wealth Mastery Program, or the Scale for Ultimate Sales system. It's built by business owners for business owners. So if you're interested in growing your profits, for preparing for a future liquidity event, and that may be 2 years away, it could be 22 years away, whatever the time may be, you want to do this now, and you want to optimize your post-exit life. Deep Wealth Mastery is for you. To get started, email success@deepwealth.com. Again, that's success, SUCCESS, at deepwealth.com. You'll receive all the information about the Deep Wealth Mastery Program, or better yet, why not hop on a complimentary strategy call? We'll go through exactly where your business is today and what's standing between you and your financial independence and your dreams. So that's where you want to be. You want to be with other successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders just like you. They're looking to grow their businesses, create market disruptions, and unlock their financial freedom to get what they deserve. And whether you've been in business for 3 years, 40 years, you're a startup, you're in manufacturing, you're in high tech, low tech, whatever the case may be, come on in and network with other business owners. It's a safe space. It's a confidential space with business owners, with businesses just like you, because they all want to lock in their financial freedom and enjoy both success and fulfillment. So again, the 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery Program, it has your name on it. All you need to do is take the next step. Please send an email to success@deepwealth.com. Deep Wealth Nation, welcome to another episode of the Deep Wealth Podcast. Well, you heard it in the official introduction. We have an author, a thought leader, a fellow entrepreneur, and yes, a post exit entrepreneur, and a whole number of other things, but they all add up to success. So, that said, Matt, welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. An absolute pleasure to have you with us. And I'm curious, Matt, because there's always a story behind the story. So, what's your story? What got you from where you were to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. Good to be on the show. I mean, answer number one would be I was a retired, broke minor league professional hockey player in Canada at the age of 26 and got into sales at a large company called Cintas. Moved up there, and that really prompted meeting the two co-founders of Sales Benchmark Index, which is now known as SBI, Greg and Aaron, and third partner Mike. And we went on a journey from 2007, a couple of exits to private equity, which now resulted in me being chairman of that business. And I think it worked out pretty well. So the story behind the story is high discipline, high work ethic, and a lot of street smarts. I'm not the book smart guy, but decently savvy in a couple of things.
My goodness, there's so much there to unpack. And by the way, Deep Health Nation, go to the show notes. There you'll have all kinds of links, but one of the links is to Matt's book, The Second CEO, Accelerating Scale When Following the Founder. And Matt, I do want to talk about that, but after all, this is a Deep Wealth podcast and exits, liquidity events. I mean, that's what we're all about. When you look back at your exit, and I know you've done a number of them, and then you put on your private equity hat. I mean, you've been on both sides of the
Yeah.
table. So I don't know where you want to start with, what worked, what was successful, or what perhaps didn't work that, second thought, I don't know if I would do that again. Is there any tip or two that you can share with us when you look back at that journey?
Having money doesn't equal having joy.
Okay. Talk to us about that. And I know offline we began to go down that very interesting rabbit hole. And I know some listeners who aren't there yet. They're saying, come on, Matt, what do you mean? Having money doesn't have
Yeah.
joy. Let me tell you all the challenges and issues that will go away once I have more zeros in the bank
Yeah.
account, once I raise that
Yeah.
capital or exit my company. So what are you talking about? They're asking. So what's going on
Yeah.
with that?
Well, I think what I would say and what I have said to those people is you can have happiness because happiness is a dopamine hit and it's
Hmm.
short-lived. So you have some extra zeros, you buy some stuff, you do some things. Those things are finite, whether it's a big trip, whether it's a new car, whether it's joining a country club, whether it's giving a bunch of money away. Joy is enduring. And that's where I'm spending my time now is this interlock between head and heart.
Hmm.
And I think the myth, especially for men, Jeffrey, where we say, man, once I get to my number, then I will be good. Or in conversation, I can't tell you how many times people are like, hey, man, what's your number? Hey, what's your number? Once I get to this. And it's like, I was in it from my early 30s all the way through to my mid to late 40s. I'm 51 now. And it was like, okay, all it does is really create this moving goalpost. You go, well, I thought I needed this, and then I thought I needed that. Then I'll be happy when I get this, and then I'll be happy when I get a second home. You just move the goalpost versus joy is what am I uniquely qualified to give to the world? I can still be a capitalist and pursue things from a business standpoint, but they don't have to define me. They can be an acceleration of who I am as a person.
Yeah, so much there. And Deep Health Nation, for those that have been in the community for a while, you know my story, very similar to Matt, cross that finish line. And Matt, like you, I never thought of the day after is let me just deal with getting the deal across the finish line. It dies a thousand deaths, as you know. And once I got there, woke up the next morning and okay, yeah, all the zeros in the bank, but I'm still the same guy. The same fears, the same hopes, the same aspirations. And little did I know that I'd be like so many other post exit entrepreneurs. The happily ever after didn't happen right away. It took a while. And in my case, which is a little bit different than others, the biggest, if I can use the word stupidest mistakes that I made were post exit, not pre exit, because I hadn't prepared. And I know it's still relatively new and offline. We're talking a little bit about that, but you've really gone into this area now and you're focusing more time and attention. You've started something. So what's going on with that? What's it called and what are you
Yeah.
focusing on?
We transacted once in 2017, which was to buy out one of my co-founders, Greg Alexander. And then we did a full private equity sale in 2020. We sold about 80% of the firm to CIP Capital. I moved to the chairman role in 2022 and replaced myself with our COO, Mike Hoffman, and he's done a wonderful job. And SBI will eventually transact again, and that'll be good for everybody involved. What I'm doing now, and the impetus on writing the book, the first impetus, Jeffrey, was this very tricky slope in private equity of following a founder. And when you become a CEO and you follow a founder who is typically an innovator, right, incredible visionary, can get something started, because without founders, there's nothing. It doesn't necessarily mean when you have to scale that business and you come in behind that person, it's a heavy job. And the CEO job is a big job, but that unique tightrope, following the person who started a company, was something I was drawn to. And I lived it following Greg. I made a bunch of mistakes. I got a couple things right. And so I felt like that was something I could uniquely offer the world that would allow other founders to feel they could pass their companies to the right person, but also allow second CEOs to go, how do I take all the goodness that the founder built and move it to the next level and the next element of scale?
And Matt, what I really like about this and the area that you've selected, you don't hear a lot about that. And I'm so thrilled and I'm so happy when I say, oh, okay, finally, someone's addressed this. Because I know at Deep Wealth, one of the first questions we ask someone who's going through our flagship program, the 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery Program, it's a simple question. And we ask them just yes or no, no stories, no narratives. Yes or no, does your business run without you? And even if they have a leadership team, more times than not, the answer is no. Everything, especially the big decision, it needs to flow through them. And so when you bring in the next CEO, so you're the founder, you're going to be stepping aside as you should. You really do want the business run without you because as with your private equity hat, the last thing that you wanted was a new second full-time job, otherwise known as running this company that I just bought because the founder's nowhere around and the company's falling apart. You're not going to do it or you're going to put a significant discount on it. Most founders, business owners, they have no idea how to set that up or what to do. So, from that perspective, and I know everyone's journey, Matt, is different and they go through their own unique trials and tribulations, but generally speaking, where as founders are we getting it wrong when it comes time to step aside and have a CEO or a hired gun step into the company to really relieve ourselves from that role and hopefully do it better than us? What aren't we getting?
Yeah, it is the question, Jeffrey. I mean, number one is lack of self-awareness. Founders are founders because they have this unique ability to get something off the ground and get it to a point where it actually can scale. And with that comes a lot of people who follow them, who believe in them. And a founder starts to believe their own press clippings that they're kind of a big deal. Same thing happens when you're a CEO, right? Like you all of a sudden go, I'm pretty important. And when I jump on the Zoom call, everybody stops. And when I walk in the room, they wait for my voice and I approve final bonuses and I get to sort of play this knight in shining armor. Well, that does a lot on the psyche where a founder can't let go. So where number one, people get it wrong is low self-awareness and a lack of humility. Number two is looking at the business objectively and saying, for this business to go from 100 million to 300 million, here's the scorecard of the CEO. And I, as a founder, if I look at that scorecard, I look at those competencies, am I really the person to take that business, put in operating systems, run high rigor, do talent management? No, I'm an idea person. I like to ignite things. I like to make hard left turns. And when you're scaling a company, it's about process, repeatability, high discipline. One's not better than the other, but they are different. So I think those would be the two big things that I would look and that we did look at in the research with the book and really classifying these different types of transitions where you have a founder who goes out all the way and they're gone versus a founder who goes to the board, takes some liquidity off the table versus a founder who might go, hey, put me back in an operating role. I like to just develop products or I just like to deal with clients in a professional services business. I'm so good face to face and let somebody else run the business.
Absolutely. And I know you talk a lot about in the book accelerating scale, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment because I love that of how you put that out there and that as a strategy to follow. But on a personal note, when you were going through this, was there one particular part in your journey that, as a second CEO, originally threw you for a loop? Never really thought of it that way. I better learn how to deal with this or work around this or work with this. Anything that you can share?
Yeah, I didn't recognize that I was being inauthentic in some of my interactions with the company in the first year
Hmm.
because I was trying to mirror Greg's leadership style on certain things, and as opposed to being the best version of Matt. Because I felt like our firm worked because of these elements that Greg brought to the table, instead of going, hold on, if we're going to do what we need to do, which is going to be a different next 5 to 7 years, I have to show up as the CEO, not as the person who'd, quote, been on the journey. So it required me, having somebody come in and do an assessment on me. I hired GH Smart. They were amazing. And
Hmm.
say, hey, can you guide me on like what should the scorecard be for the CEO for this company? I happen to be it now because we've already made the decision.
Hmm.
And then tell me where my weak spots are and
Uh-huh.
my strengths. And then I took those and I posted them on the company intranet for the entire firm to read and said, this is me when I'm good. This is me when I'm not. And this is what I'm working on. And that was my way of sort of having high vulnerability and creating a culture where people go, okay, we can be really authentic with each other.
Yeah, I love the GH Smart, and my goodness, takes me back to the A method for hiring and the scorecard and
Yes.
everything else. Absolutely love that. Did that myself. But I'm wondering because you bring up something that to me it can easily turn into a slippery slope. So you have the founder's legacy, you have their style. It's now baked into the culture, and on the one hand, to your point, well, I'm really showing up as I should be showing up for me. That's why they brought me on board, not to be another lookalike. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I don't necessarily want to upset the apple cart, as the
Yeah.
saying goes. I don't want to be disrespectful. So it's a tug and a pull. How do you balance that, particularly early days, the first 90 days, first
Yeah.
100 days into the position? What's going on there?
Yeah. The first 100 days, and something we talk about a lot in the book, is if you come from the inside, you have to act like you came from the outside. And the problem when people get promoted, especially from the two slot to the one slot internally, they're
Mhm.
like, oh, we need to do this and we need to do that because they have this view of other functions in the company, but they have that view from their seat as a functional leader
Mhm.
or a geographic leader or a practice leader,
Mhm.
not as the CEO.
Mhm.
So in the first 100 days, if you're from the inside, act like the outside. And if you're coming from the outside, do your classic listening tour, ask a lot of questions, and don't make big sweeping changes in the first 100 days.
Mhm.
Instead, be really thoughtful about your hypotheses and
Mhm.
act like you're a consultant from the outside and you've got to produce a deliverable. So you have structured thinking and you have a good way of dimensioning where the commonality is. And that was something that right now, that is a big thing that I try to help other CEOs and private equity firms with when they're making these transitions is what's the level set for the company right now?
And for the founder who's listening to this, because I know putting myself back in that position, I remember I realized, okay, Jeffrey, you're not really the best person to take Mbanet, my e-learning company, to the next level. Yeah, you got it here. You probably could do the next step, but it's not, you're likely not going to enjoy it and you're likely not going to be as successful. But the thought of bringing somebody else in, it was daunting. And so, really, a two-pronged question. Let me start with the first one. For the founder in Deep Wealth Nation who's now hearing this, and they do realize, okay, the business does need to run without me. I do want to scale it. I'd like to get that lifestyle that I started the business for. I want to lose the golden handcuffs. What would be some telltale signs to either run as fast as you can in the other direction to a candidate that you're speaking to because they're just not a fit, or hey, lock this one up right now. This is a terrific candidate. Let's just go. Any insights
Yeah.
into that?
Yeah. Number one is everybody's replaceable, including you, as the CEO. And I think the founder needs to recognize they play two roles: founder,
Mm-hmm.
which can never be taken away from them. They'll
Mm-hmm.
always be the founder, and God bless them. CEO, which is a job description. You play another role on the executive team with a different set of responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay to transition that one. So that's the first thing I would tell them. The second thing I would tell them is think like an investor,
Mhm,
don't think like a founder.
mhm,
If you looked at the business objectively and you had one or two other people look at it, and we'll just use easy numbers, Jeffrey, if I'm a $100 million business with 20 million in EBITDA,
mhm,
and I want to go from 100 to 250 and 20 in EBITDA to 60 in EBITDA, and I want to do acquisitions and I want to launch a new product and debate a new geography. When I look at that job to be done and I say, let me go future back 250 and 60 in EBITDA, what is that job description? And who would do that? What are the competencies that get us there as opposed to the who? And a lot of people start with the person. Oh, yeah, Mike could do it. Oh, yeah, Sharon could do it. It's like, time out. What are the skills and competencies in the leader who can go and 2.5x the revenue, 2.5x the EBITDA, go and do acquisitions? Let's get that and then objectively look at a couple people internally and a couple people externally against that and try
mhm.
to make an objective, unemotional decision.
Yeah, so much going on there. And while we're doing that, because on the one hand, we have to think of it as, okay, this is got to be good for the company. They got to take it to the next level. And you're talking 3x numbers. I'd even put out there, hey, how can we 10x this and get there a whole lot sooner and quicker? But now putting your private equity hat on, you're now coming into a company, maybe they've been fortuitous enough and smart enough to already have a leadership team in place that the founder can say, hey, Matt and team, look at this. The business really does run without me. Here's the team. With your PE hat on, I'm sure you've seen situations you're looking at that CEO saying, what were they thinking? This is not a fit. This is actually hurting the company. It's going to hurt my value for the enterprise value. I'm going to penalize them. Or you're looking, wow, yeah, they did a really terrific job here. Couldn't have done it any better myself. What does that look like from your perspective? What are you looking to see, or in this case, not see?
So I think in a situation like that, when you do walk in, and Jeffrey, what you're saying is the transition's already been made between the founder and the second CEO, and you're walking in and you sort of get a level set. Okay. So in a case like that, then it is time with that founder and anybody else who was involved in the decision, if they happen to have a couple board members, to say, hey, walk me through like when you guys were replacing you, the founder, how were you looking at the job description? How were you looking at the role? And why did you pick insert name for it? What's
Mhm.
their background? What had they proven in the past? What was it about them that gave you all this confidence? So, first off, I want to understand how they decided as
Mhm.
opposed to what they decided. And a lot of people focus on what's been decided as opposed to the how. And
Mhm.
the how leaves clues to tell
Mhm.
you where the decision potentially was right or wrong. So, that's the first thing. And then the next thing is get the lens from that CEO and the executive team. Hey, based on what you were hired to do and based on where we are, how do
Mhm.
you think it's going? Share with me the value creation plan. Share with me what you thought you were brought here to do. And I would compare that with what the founder and the board told me. And then my last lens would be the executive team. Say, hey, how's it going? You guys have been through a transition, right? Sharon took over for Jeffrey. How's it working? You guys feel like you're tracking to the North Star? Give me a couple reasons why you think it's on track. Give me a couple things you think that are holding us back, and how might we accelerate? And that would be my sort of Venn diagram of getting a clear view.
And for the listener in Deep Wealth Nation who's hearing this, because oftentimes so many business owners, if they're not going through the Deep Wealth Mastery Program, a shameless plug, I know, but they're making all the mistakes. They're probably going to be the 90% of liquidity events that fail, or even worse, leaving 50% to over 100% of the deal value on the deal table. Can you explain, Matt, with your entrepreneur hat, your founder hat, but also your PE hat, why it's so important to have that management team in place, not 6 months before the liquidity event, ideally years before, 3 years, 5 years, as long
Yeah.
as possible before you're ever speaking to an investment banker?
Yep. Because investors back teams
Mhm.
and they back CEOs. And there's a term like literally having been in hundreds, probably over 1,000 diligence assignments in my career.
Mhm.
A question is always asked, is he or she a backable CEO? And is this a backable team? And the
Mhm.
reason is private equity firms are not operators. And they
Mhm.
will tell you that, right? Yes, some may have operating partners, who come in and give you a perspective on product and tech, or give you a perspective on go to market, have some ability to help you think through M&A,
Hmm.
but you're going to deliver the thesis based on one thing and one thing only, your team. So, Jeffrey, you're spot on. I mean, three rules for the CEO: culture, strategy, and team. Those are the three things you own. Everything else, your team owns. But if your team owns it, they got to have clarity, and they have to be people that can run a function at scale.
And so, all of that said, and we've been doing a little bit of the foundation, and thank you for being so patient with my newbie questions I've been throwing at you. Let me ask you this, though. When we're now bringing in the second CEO, which is really the first CEO from the perspective
Yeah.
of it's a hired gun, it's no longer the founder, it's no longer someone who's
Yep.
been with the company from the beginning. So, from a cultural standpoint, okay, granted, it's a fingerprint likely of the founder, but what needs to be in a culture to have a second CEO not just succeed, but brilliantly succeed and take the company to the next level?
Yep. Number one is clarity of purpose,
Hmm.
right? And the why. Employees get excited when they feel like there's something bigger than them and bigger than just, quote, more revenue, and why the company exists. So, one is purpose. Two is a compelling North Star and vision of what's the art of the possible. What can we become? And what is the unique differentiation we bring to the marketplace that allows us to be different, and
Hmm.
also allows that employee to look and go, man, I can reach my full potential or get much closer if I'm here in this company bringing my skill set. Then I think the last one is values, how people behave, and not the values that are on the plaques on the wall that nobody talks about. I'm talking about the daily values and the behavior and the 4 to 6 guiding principles that you
Hmm.
use to
Hmm.
say, this is how employees behave when they work here. We hire to these values, we fire to the values, we do reviews to these values, we give awards to people who are exhibiting them like they're real. And that's an environment that I think an employee can say, I like the why. I like the vision of what it can become. And man, I love how people behave here. To me, those are the bedrocks of culture that you can define more so than just our culture makes us unique. Everybody says that. Dude, break it down. So,
Yeah, I love what you're saying there, Matt. It reminds me of that Glassdoor survey where they asked, what's either keeping you in your position? So these were not founders, these were employees, or as we like to call them, the default team members, leadership team, frontline
yeah,
people. What's keeping you there, or why did you leave your last position to go to this new company? And to your point, Matt, at the top of the list, it wasn't money, it was what's the vision of the company? Does this get me excited? If I'm spending more time with the people at the office than I am with my family, do I like it here? What's the culture like? What's the leadership like?
yeah,
How am I feeling? And so I suppose it's like that Maya Angelou quote: it's not what you say, it's how you make people feel. That's what they remember. There's so much going on with that and with what you've been sharing and with what you've been doing. So couldn't agree more in terms of all of what's there. So all of that said, as we've been going through this, I'm wondering, Matt, when it comes to really hitting it out of the park, what would be, again, either one thing, hey, Jeffrey, don't do this no matter what, or Jeffrey, you absolutely want to do this when we now begin to pull all of this together and it's now, okay, let's do some execution, let's do some strategy here with all your different hats on. What's coming to mind with that?
yeah. I mean, often a second CEO will be a little too deferential to either the private equity firm or the historical, like the way things used to be, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't trust their instincts, especially if they're a first-time CEO.
Mm-hmm.
So something I work a lot with the CEOs I coach is, listen, you are in charge. Like, this is your ship.
Mm-hmm.
And a private equity firm, they're investors. They're not operators.
Mm-hmm.
So when you feel something and they're giving you a recommendation, you got to push back when you know in your heart of hearts they're incorrect. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one. Two is we talked obviously about culture, strategy, and team. And those three bedrocks to me, inside of 18 months, you need to feel like, okay, I know this culture and I've sort of set a tone of
Mm-hmm.
what works for this business with me at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
Strategy, defining where we play and how we win. We have defined that. It's clear and the company knows it. And then
Mm-hmm.
team. I've changed out a couple leadership roles. I probably have eyes on one or two more changes, but my team, not the team, my team is now formed,
Mhm.
and we can go the next 2.5 to 3.5 years and really make hay. And if you
Mhm.
have those three things in place as you're kind of cresting over that 18-month time frame, you're in position to probably have a pretty good run.
And so, with that now in play and all of the things that you've been sharing with us, let's go now to accelerating scale. Because to me, the way that you've laid this out and that you've positioned it, this is really a game changer. For someone who hasn't yet read the book, and again, Deep Wealth Nation, go to the show notes, pick up the book. The link is there. The Second CEO, Accelerating Scale When Following the Founder. What do you want us to know about the accelerating scale?
It's very unglamorous. Jeffrey, it's almost like when you meet somebody who's in really good physical shape, or you meet somebody who's a great author, or you meet somebody who's a great pianist, and people marvel at, like, I could never do that, or etc. Well, if you look beyond where that person is and you unpack one thing, which is their habits, all of the clues to brilliance lie in the habits of that person. So, what do I mean by that with the CEO? What's the operating rhythm that the CEO follows? Is there a regular Monday staff meeting that starts and ends on time with the right agenda where we debate and discuss and then we make decisions? Does everybody on the leadership team have a scorecard that defines their role? Does everybody have a single KPI that they own relentlessly and are accountable to the rest of the leadership team to deliver on that? And so on. Having those operating norms and that cadence, that matters. And accelerating scale comes down to doing unglamorous things in a relentlessly predictable way.
And big picture, Matt, as you're talking about this, and now I'm putting myself back in the shoes of a founder, what would be the simple narrative for a founder when they're looking for that second CEO to come in, effectively, to be blunt, I'm firing myself. I'm taking myself out of this position. Yes, I'm world class in some areas, but I'm certainly not in other areas. And the goal is what's best for all stakeholders and grow the company, go into new areas, create market disruptions, create new enterprise value, all those good things. What's the narrative I should be thinking about as a founder?
You need some objectivity to help you define what that second CEO should be. And that's, you should pick up the phone and there's lots of people they can call. They can talk to you, they could talk to me, they could talk to my friends at GH Smart. You just need somebody else to help you objectively say, from X to Y, this is the vision I see. And the founder's really good at laying that out.
Mhm.
I'm not the CEO for it. I'm still the founder. I'm still going to evangelize. So I think that's one. The second one I would tell you is, if a founder has not sold a majority stake in the company and they haven't taken some liquidity
Mhm.
off the table
Mhm.
to, like you said earlier, Jeffrey, sort of reflect their own golden handcuffs, but to reward them for what they've built, I would seriously look at doing that, because it's going to allow the purity of decision making for the business to be cleaner. Because when a founder is gambling their own money, it's a hard thing when you go, hey, we want to do an acquisition and it makes all kinds of sense, but we got to lay down a seven-figure amount of money to buy the existing business, and we've got to backstop it, and we need debt. Like, that is why a private equity industry exists. And that's
Mhm.
why they have a track record of doing this. So, as a founder, think like an investor, take some happily ever after money off the table, leave some in to roll with the next investor, and off you go. And you truly can have your cake and eat it too.
And Matt, as you're sharing this, this is not textbook. This is not theory. This is from the trenches. You've been through this. This is part of your journey. So you're actually talking the talk. You've walked the talk, as the saying
Yeah.
goes. When you look back to your journey, was there a particular, if I can use another F word, offline we're talking about having some fun. Another F word is failure. And we don't like talking about that as entrepreneurs. Was there a failure, a so called failure, or a setback in your own journey that helped you get to the outlook and the philosophy and the strategies that you're sharing with us today?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to pick which one you want to go with. I got a ton of them. I would say one was when I was a professional hockey player, I got focused on the wrong things. And while it all worked out from a business career standpoint after,
Hmm.
I learned that my decision making and how I was thinking short term versus long term was flawed. Talking to other people who had been through it before going through it.
Mhm.
And I think when we did our first transaction, we were very myopic about what was happening. I had a better sense of what life post transaction, still running the company, having some partners leave, a reconstitution of the leadership team. I had a
Mhm.
much better sense of that. So I wish coming up to the first one, I would have got better outside counsel and outside mentorship of really what it was going to look like.
And as you're sharing that, curious, and I'll throw this out there, you do come from, before the arena of business, it was the arena of sports. Being that professional hockey player, being involved, being out there, how much of your business success would you attribute to what you learned in the sports arena that you took with you to the business arena?
Yeah, I would say quite a bit. And the things I took from sport is the discipline and like intense intentionality of being an expert at your craft.
Hmm.
Whether you are a football player, a swimmer, I was a hockey player, for you to be one of the best centermen or left wingers in a game that's so competitive, you have to be willing to do things that other people are unwilling or unable to do. And you have to keep that warrior mentality when you move into business. Because if you don't, somebody's going to take it from you. And then the other component is the habits you have around yourself, around business, whether it's some mindfulness time, what you do to work out physically, the peer group you run with. Do you have a coach? You've got to surround yourself in a winning environment, because to just say, well, I'm going to have all this chaos in my life, but when I jump into work, I'm this like other person. You can't do that. Your true self shows up at work. We can only be who we are.
Hmm.
So you have to take a full cycle lens at how you approach the role. And I learned a lot of that in hockey, watching coaches that I played for with how they prepared us. Number
Hmm.
one, guys I played with who were incredible and consistent. Number two, and then just going through my own journey, both things that went well and areas where I didn't do as well as I should have.
And it's not so much on the science of business, it's now on the art side of business. How in the culture, Matt, can we foster, can we create that competitive spirit, that team spirit that we see so much in sports now, not only in the boardroom, but with our frontline team all the way through
Yeah.
to our executive team?
Yeah, I think part of it is the awareness that you don't have a team just when you have six people that happen to work for the same place in the same department.
Hmm.
That's a collection of individuals. You need to turn the collection into a collective. And
Hmm.
how you turn people from a collection of individuals into a collective is number one, uniting around a shared vision, shared goal, and the principles like we talked about earlier. So, purpose, vision, and values.
Hmm.
Two is the self awareness of what role do I play for the team and what's my unique value to each teammate. So, whether you use a Hogan assessment or DISC or whatnot, it's like, Jeffrey, you have different skills and things than I have.
Hmm.
Together, you and I are probably better than we are apart.
Hmm.
There's areas where you can pick me up and help me get unstuck on certain things. I got to know how to leverage my teammates. And the only way I do that is I'm vulnerable. So I
Hmm.
think the shared vision, big, the values, how we behave, and then understanding that individuals don't make a team. It's that collective unit and vulnerability that does.
Mentioned vulnerability, and the irony with vulnerability, so many people think, well, a weak person is vulnerable. Actually, it's the opposite. It's a strong person that's vulnerable. And even earlier on, you shared with me, well, Jeffrey, when I became that second CEO, I didn't show up as me. I was trying to be somebody else and wasn't authentic to those around me. I mean, wow, talk about being vulnerable. That is not easy to hear, and certainly not easy to get that kind of feedback from. But that vulnerability, it sounds like it's, again, it's more on the art side. It's not going to show up on a balance
Right.
sheet or a P&L statement,
Right.
but it's certainly a key trait that we should all have. And Matt, let me ask you this before we go into wrap up mode. I know there's so many questions I didn't have a chance to ask. Is there one particular question that stands out, or is there a message to the Deep Wealth Nation you'd like to get out there, or even a topic that we haven't covered that you'd like to share before we go into the wrap up mode?
The intersection of head and heart matters more than you think it does. And what I mean by that is, I remember my dad telling me, like, if you're coaching somebody and they quote work for you, and if all you talk about is work, you're only going to get a very small part of who that person is. You have to coach the whole person. And to coach the whole person, you got to know the whole person. And a funny story, Jeffrey, to illustrate this, every time when I was in the CEO seat, I would sit down at our quarterly offsite with the executive team. They knew something was coming, some sort of a question where I would look at someone and say, "Hey, Eric, tell me the names of your direct reports, the names of their spouses, and the names of each one of their children." And if you didn't know that, dude, you're a shitty coach. And that would be the message. Or the next quarter, I might say, "Hey, what's the personal thing that each one of your direct reports are working on away from work? Learning a second language, training for a marathon, gonna go hike Machu Picchu." Like, it doesn't matter. You have to know the whole self. So that would be my advice to everybody.
Yeah, I love that. And before we go into wrap up mode, for someone in Deep Wealth Nation who is thinking, yeah, Matt, I hear you, and that's a nice to have for me, but man, I'm way too busy. I don't have time to do the chit chat and the social thing and find out what people are up to or their families or anything else. Why is this important? Why would you stop that person in the tracks and say, hey, if you don't have the time, you better find the time because of A, B, and C? What's going on there?
You might get to where you're going, but it's going to take you a hell of a lot longer and you're not going to have as much fun.
Yeah. And going back to what we are talking about earlier on the leadership side, you're right. I mean, we can't just be an effective leader. We just can't be a leader, period. It's not just about the business. We've got to be a leader for the whole person because, as I often like to say, whoever said that business isn't personal was either never in business or never ran a business or a little bit of both. Everything is personal because we got something on the personal side that is just keeping us up at nights. It's really bothering us. It's going to spill over from the personal side onto the business side. So we're a whole person, a whole entity. So that said, some great advice there. Let's wrap it up with some terrific advice. And it's a tradition here on the Deep Wealth Podcast. It's both my honor and a tradition and really my privilege to ask every guest the same question. So here's the question. It's a really fun one. Let me set this up for you, Matt. When you think of the movie Back to the Future, you have that magical DeLorean car that will take you to any point in time. So, Matt, it's tomorrow morning, and here's the fun part. You look outside your window, not only is the DeLorean car curbside, the door is open, it's waiting for you to hop on in, which you do. And you're now going to go to any point in your life. Matt, as a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time it would be, what would you tell your younger self in terms of life lessons or life wisdom? Or, hey, Matt, do this, but don't do that. What would it sound like?
Don't focus on external achievement to worry about what other people think of you. Focus on achievement because what it does for you internally and the peace that it brings you.
Wow. So not looking externally, really looking within. You be your own judge. Go within, and it's a competition with yourself, not anyone else. How am I doing with that?
That's it.
Love that. Well, Matt, that said, congratulations. It's official. This is a wrap. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Appreciate you having me on, man.
So there you have it, Deep Wealth Nation. What did you think? So with all that said, and as we wrap it up, I have another question for you. Actually, it's more of a personal favor. Did you find this episode helpful? Have you found other episodes of the Deep Wealth Podcast empowering and a game changer for your journey? And if you said yes, and I really hope you did, I have a small but really meaningful way that you can actually help us out and keep these episodes coming to you. Are you ready for it? The dramatic pause. I'll just wait a moment. Drum roll, please. Subscribe. Please subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast on your favorite podcast channel. When you subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast, you're saving yourself time. Every episode automatically comes to you. And I want you to know that we meticulously craft every one of our episodes to have impactful strategies, stories, expert insights that are designed to help you grow your profits, increase the value of your business, and yes, even optimize your post-exit life and your life right now, whatever you want that to look like. And every time you subscribe and a fellow entrepreneur subscribes, it's a testament to how together, yes, we are changing the social fabric of society. One business owner at a time, one liquidity event at a time. So don't let the momentum stop here. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast channel. You'll never miss an episode. You'll be the first to hear from the top industry leaders, the innovators, the disruptors that are really changing and shaping the business world. And maybe you're commuting, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're taking a well-deserved break that we spoke all about on this episode. The Deep Wealth Podcast, it's your reliable source for the next big idea that could literally revolutionize your business. So once again, please hit that subscribe button, stay connected, inspired, and ahead of the curve. And again, your next big breakthrough moment, it might just be one episode away. Maybe it was even this episode. So all that said, Thank you so much for listening. And remember, your wealth isn't just about the money in the bank, it's about the depth of your journey and the impact that you're creating. So let's continue this journey together. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much. God bless.